Am I the a-hole for excluding my stepson from family trip? My stepson Kevin and I have known each other for 18 years. He's 30, and I never hesitated to adopt him because he was just the same as my other two sons. However, after he became 18, he started a new wave treatment. He'd constantly ask me to do things for him and tell me I'm one mistake away from him disowning me if I don't cater to his requests. I've helped with so much, but now that he's older, has his own family and lives hours away, we established a cordial relationship and no longer used the "you don't do this, I disown you" line. We wanted to go on a family trip to a beach resort. Before we left, Kevin contacted me saying he wanted to go with the family, but didn't have money to pay for his family. I said everyone was required to pay for themselves, not just him. He said his mom will pay. His mom said she won't pay, but wanted me to indirectly contact him and insist to pay for his family with his own money. I told him that, and he asked me to pay. Then he or mom would repay me later. My children will claim that I'm forcing them to pay while I'm paying for Kevin, and I just sent him an email informing him of my final decision, that he either pay or not go. I got no response from him. We went on the trip, and he called my number and was very, very angry. I told him I'd given him enough time to figure something out, but he claimed I didn't give him any options, and refused to help and pay even when he said he'd repay me or get his mom to. I explained why I couldn't pay for his family, and the favoritism and drama this would bring. He said it seemed like I was punishing him for how he treated me years ago, but I told him I treat all children equally, never played favorites on either side, thus refusing to pay for him and the other children. He complained I don't consider him family, and he and his wife were incredibly hurt by being excluded, and that implied he'd consider disowning me. But I respectfully told him to fly a kite and disown me, because I don't care anymore. He's an adult that can make whatever decision he wanted, but also as an adult, he's gotta live with his decision. He hasn't talked to me in a week. His mom says that I should have taken this opportunity to strengthen my relationship with Kevin, but now I've brought it back to how it was years ago, saying I should have paid for his family to come since I have the money, and just hide it from my other children. I told her what kind of message that sent to my other children who are 21 and 24 but still had to pay. I guarantee you, Kevin would have bragged about going on the trip for free. She's suggesting that I call and apologize to try and salvage my relationship, especially since I've brought this upon myself. I lashed out at her asking what kind of mess-up family dynamics this is, basically buying his love and acceptance for how long? I ended the conversation right then, but I keep getting told I shouldn't be surprised if Kevin cuts contact or worse. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your wife and stepson are a doozy though. I really don't need to list why Kevin is an a-hole in this situation as it is clearly written out. Your wife, however, is in the same boat. Not only did she want you to tell him no, she then insisted you were wrong and should have paid? She cannot have her cake and eat it too. I feel like Opie's wife spoiled the stepson before she got married, and continued to enable the behavior until it turned him into a spoiled adult. Yeah, two words that should not be able to go together, spoiled and adult. Not an a-hole, but Kevin is. He's grown and you're not responsible for him or his family. If he cuts contact, you've not really lost anything. Indeed. I think I could be wrong for not giving him more options and helped him to come. But this whole trip would have turned in drama-filled situation if my sons knew I paid for Kevin to come. He's 30 years old with a family. He should be able to figure out other options that don't involve your money. His mother wasn't even going to pay for him, and both of them turned to you. Why isn't he angry with his mother for not coming up with other options? Because you are a convenient scapegoat, and you need to understand this. He will cut off contact with you until he needs something else. You will not be rid of him forever. I mean, is him going no contact really a threat, or is it a gift at this point? Also, rethink your marriage. Not the a-hole. She literally said I won't pay, then got mad dad wouldn't pay, then made him tell her son this for her? Excuse me? You are right, that absolutely would have infuriated your two kids. The favoritism would be off the chain. Seems like Kevin is used to preferential treatment, so equal treatment seems sad or oppressive. Honestly, he's a grown man. If he wanted to go on vacation, he could have saved up for it. He made his own bed, and him and his mom can sleep in it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my 25 female stepsister 30 female she is a fool to think my sister 23 female would ever want a relationship with her? After my mom died, my dad remarried another woman who already had a daughter of her own. Honestly, me and my siblings weren't too keen on the idea of our dad marrying again, but it was ultimately his decision to make, so we chose to stay out of it. Our stepmom isn't that bad. We aren't close, but we don't have any bad blood between us either. Her daughter Sue, on the other hand, is an absolute nightmare. She is a spoiled and entitled brat, who for some reason would target my sister, Aurelia. Aurelia has a short temper and doesn't usually put up with anyone's BS, so she'll try her best to keep her distance from Sue because she'll drive her off the edge to the point where she snaps. I warned her multiple times that she better quit Sid, and that I don't tolerate divas like her. She wouldn't even acknowledge anything I'd say and brush it off, which would really annoy me. I don't care if she doesn't want to have a relationship with us. The least she could do is be polite. There were so many occasions where Sue would make Aurelia feel terrible. She'd call her a banshee, a Grinch, and tell her she looked like she crawled out of a graveyard. That was deeply hurtful, and it caused plenty of insecurities to come along the road for Aurelia, despite my effort to tell her that none of that was true. Sue was a tough child, and you'd literally have to waste every nerve just to get her to listen, so obviously discipline didn't do much, and they gave up on it entirely. Now Aurelia is doing great. She has moved to Australia and she lives with her boyfriend. Me and my siblings will call her on a daily basis as we are extremely close with one another. Sue has dropped out of college and lives with a friend. My stepmom and dad cut contact with her because of personal issues I won't be addressing in this post. Sue has recently tried to reach out to Aurelia, even though Aurelia has made it clear that Sue is dead to her, and their so-called relationship has dipped down a drain a long time ago. Sue wouldn't take no as an answer and turned to me for advice because apparently she doesn't see what she had done wrong to cause Aurelia to despise her so much. I replied saying that she had zero self-awareness, and I had little to no sympathy for her. She was a fool to think that Aurelia would ever want a relationship with her. I told her that she made her bed and had to lay in it. You reap what you sow after all, right? She started crying and hung up. It made a long post on Facebook about how she was seen as the screw-up, and that of course Aurelia will forever maintain her position as the golden child. I feel like an A. After all, that was a bit too harsh and overboard. But I'm not sure. Am I the a-hole? Not an a-hole. I'm not sure what she expected, but you were upfront and honest with her rather than lying. Just because you're step-siblings, you're not required to have a relationship. Not an a-hole. Sounds like she finally got the truth she needed to hear and didn't like it. Not an a-hole. Sue harassed and bullied Aurelia for years, and never felt a bit of guilt for it. Aurelia cut her out completely, which is to be expected. Sue reaches out to Aurelia and is surprised that Aurelia won't restore contact. Sue, being the bull she was and still is, refuses to accept no and ask you for advice. You told Sue the truth about her behavior, and that Aurelia will never have a relationship with her. Sue doesn't like that. Too bad. It's what she earned. Don't be Sue's Facebook friend anymore or talk to her at all. She's still toxic. Not an a-hole. You just stated the truth on the situation to her. You might have been a bit harsh, but she clearly hasn't listened in the past. It has caused this to happen. However, your stepsister right now might be dealing with a lot and feeling she's being pushed out for no reason. Maybe you should speak to her family and ask to sit her down, then tell her all the things she's done and needs to make up for. Obviously not all at once, and probably not right now. Let her calm down, and that's all I can suggest. I'm sorry for the situation you're in. Hope things get solved sooner than later for you. I've made many attempts to try and have her open up to us. Aurelia even recommended she goes to therapy for heaven's sake. However, she refused. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was when Sue got into a massive fight with Aurelia that she said, "You're nothing, do you understand? You're a worthless piece of crap that serves no purpose whatsoever to any of us." The fight resulted into Sue being grounded for a month, and Aurelia crying and having a meltdown. She didn't come out of her room for the rest of the night, and I've never been so concerned for her well-being. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to be my friend's baby's godfather after I was given a legally binding contract to sign with requirements attached? Short story is, my wife is from another country, and we met a couple in which the husband's wife is from the same country. We are great friends for almost 9 years now, done a lot together, best friends hands down. The husband has no family alive / that talks to him, and the wife obviously only has the husband as her family here in the US. Well, the wife is pregnant with a baby girl. For sake of conversation, we will call her Jane. The husband asked me if I could be Jane's godfather. To note, they are Catholic. I was honored. My friend was thrilled, and the next day, he dropped off an envelope with some papers in it. After he left, I looked and it was a legal contract that I needed to sign in order to be the godfather. Obviously, I thought it was a bit overboard, but gave it a read anyways. It has many things I must do as a godfather, such as I must go to every Catholic event in which Jane attends, such as christening, confession, confirmation, etc., which I know are normal events for a Catholic child's life. Not a big deal. Then we get into ridiculous things. I have to consider becoming Catholic. I must give a gift of at least $500 for each of these events. And on birthday / Christmas, gifts must be cash only and over $250. Oh no, it gets worse. I am expected to save at least $25,000 over Jane's 18 years and set it aside for Jane's future college tuition. Her parents will provide the rest. Seriously? The list goes on to include various things, such as being willing to cancel any plans I have if they need me to watch Jane or if they go on vacation. Apparently Jane can't go? Many of the other things on the list were silly or not a big deal, like spending time with her once a week. I called my friend and said it was nothing personal, but there was no way I would sign it. He got mad and said I am the only family they got and should be thankful and honored to be asked. I told him I was honored, but the rules were extreme and ridiculous, especially when it comes to the money involved. He brought up that he knows I'm godfather to a niece I have, and I send her money, which I do. I give her $100 a year. In her country, that's a ton of money. I told him there's a big difference between $100 and tens of thousands over 18 years. He essentially told me he thought I was a good guy, but it was apparent that I was selfish. He has since blocked my number and my email. His wife has too. Mind you, his wife and mine talked nearly every day. Since he ended things, I shredded the papers he gave me and left them in a bag and put it in his mailbox for him, telling him it was a shame he ruined a friendship over ridiculous demands. I told him I forgive him regardless. Lastly, I will note together this couple makes almost $200,000 a year. My wife and I make not even $35,000 a year. So am I the a-hole for refusing to be Jane's godfather? Added information below. I should add that while I don't know what the wife's involvement in the contract was, many people that come from her country tend to be married to, let's say, wealthier men here. So they tend to live lavish lives and spend a lot on their kids. Some tend to also look down on small gifts. For example, if you don't have a Michael Kors purse, they judge you. So maybe the money thing was the wife's idea. If someone wants to spend a ton of money, that's up to them. But I don't want to spend a ton of money on a child that isn't even mine. At least not $25,000. Now for the comments. Haha, wait, you're serious? Not the a-hole. Sounds like they think you're a sucker and want to use you as a free ATM machine. They want you to pony up at least $25,000 for future college fund? No. They want you to just pay for their kid while they can spend their own money on whatever they want. True. The wife does buy a lot of expensive stuffs and is full of herself at times. Not the a-hole. Putting $25,000 away for a child's college tuition that isn't even yours is a huge ask. I've never heard of a godparent giving so much money at every event, and they really shouldn't be surprised that you didn't go through with it. Most people wouldn't be able to handle that financial burden, and they're going to learn that the hard way. I'm sorry that this situation ruined your friendship, and hopefully they'll see how much of a selfish a-hole they're being. Yeah. Usually, parents or the child figure out the college thing later. It isn't my problem. Not the a-hole. Holy cow! This may be a serious cultural difference, but how in the world are you supposed to save that amount of money for someone else's kid? That's just a crazy demand. And the whole thing is completely out of whack with societal norms. Putting the shredded thing in his mailbox was an a-hole move on your part, and certainly didn't help calm things down. But you are not being selfish. You are being realistic. For them to put financial demands on your family like this shows an incredible lack of awareness on their part. There is no way you could be her godfather. Not unless you want your life dictated by this rule. I remember my grandmother would give me $100 savings bonds every Christmas for my future. $25,000 though? No. I do agree shredding it wasn't the best idea. Especially if they ever decide to apologize and want to be friends again. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my dad's wife to refer to me by name or as her bonus kid in interviews? Just joined Reddit to get some perspective on this. I'm 29 female and my parents divorced when I was 15. My dad remarried when I was 20, and his new wife, Laura, is a sort of famous radio profile in our country. Laura is occasionally interviewed by newspapers or other media, and she's often asked about her home and love life, which would be normal and perfectly fine, if not for how she consistently refers to myself and my older siblings by our full names and as her bonus kids. Problem is, our last name is unique. If you meet a person with that last name, then that person is 100% related to us. We are, in short, extremely easy to find, which makes this doubly uncomfortable. I've had people contact me on Facebook asking if I know Laura, or what it's like to live with her, and all kinds of outright invasive questions. My sister has looked up the law on name changes to see if she can take our grandmother's maiden name just to avoid all of this. And I'm considering taking my fiancé's name when I get married. Laura always had a habit of acting like our mom, which is frustrating and annoying at best, and downright insulting at worst, since our mom is very much alive and in our lives. My sister and I always said we were uncomfortable with that, and Laura never listened. After the first interview, we told her also that we didn't want to be referred to as her bonus kids, because we're adults and don't like to be referred to like we're kids. Laura still doesn't listen, and I'm fed up. I've moved to a different country fairly recently, and I've stopped talking to Laura at all. I still talk to my dad, and he has been reproachful about how I won't talk to his wife. I've told him that if she stops mentioning our names in interviews, and stops acting like we're her 10-year-old babies, I'll talk to her. It's not unreasonable to not want my privacy broken, and I don't really feel guilty. But am I the a-hole for not wanting her to keep doing this, or for not talking to her? Not the a-hole. But personally, I would have started answering all those fans' questions after she didn't listen the first time. Hell, I'd have started a YouTube channel and started calling her out and giving out her personal activities. This right here. Oh yes, I know Laura. You can reach her at... Not the a-hole. You tried telling her and she didn't listen, so that's on her. Your request is reasonable as it's having real-life consequences and affecting your personal life. Not the a-hole. But damn, step-parents can't win. If they don't acknowledge their step-kids like they acknowledge their bio-kids, it's an issue. And if they do, it's an issue. I'm sure she annoys her bio-kids as well, and she's just trying to share the annoyance, lol. You have a right to privacy, but I can't imagine getting cut off for wanting to shout out my step-kids that I'm probably proud of. I wish she had married into a family with kids that appreciate her for the quirky person she is. Not the a-hole. The petty/malicious/vindictive part of me would call her up during her radio show and let her whole fanbase know she's ignoring your wishes to not be mentioned. Sounds like you're not in the US. Can you send her a cease and desist letter? And don't even say who you are, Opie. Just be like, hey, I'm curious why you keep referring to your bonus kids by their full names when they've asked you to stop. Chances are she'll recognize your voice and figure out what's up, but then you can just play dumb. Of course, this would pretty much torpedo the relationship, at least for the time being, but boy would it be satisfying. It's up to you whether or not it's worth it. Lol. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted to my mom's pregnancy announcement? So I've been trying to figure out how to word this post and stuff for days. and I'm very tired, so please bear with me with my grammar, spelling, general cohesion, etc. I'm 18 male and the oldest of 5 siblings. Not hugely relevant, but they are 7 female, 9 female, 9 male, and 12 female. Our mom is, well, not the best, let's put it that way. I'm sure she has some kind of severe mental health issues, but she absolutely refuses to accept that or get diagnosed. She has substance abuse issues and will go on benders for weeks and times, and has these prolonged manic episodes where she does things like blowing all of our money on designer stuff and gadgets and even vehicles, but she doesn't pay the bills or buy food or anything. It's been this way since I was little. It's all I've ever really known. She has this pattern when she's had babies where for like 6 months or so, she turns into mother of the year and is super attentive and stuff. But then the novelty of the new baby wears off and she's back to the same old mom. Since I was 7 and the oldest younger sister was born, I've been picking up the slack. It's meant I've had to give up / miss out on a lot and had to grow up very, very fast. We're at a point now though where the kids are old enough that they don't need constant supervision, can be a little bit independent, and I can have something of a normal life. I'm in a relationship now and I'm meant to be going to university, albeit at a school close enough I can stay in the same city, in September. Or I was, until a few days ago when mom excitedly told me she is pregnant again and due in September. I did not react well. At first I asked if she was joking, and when I realized she wasn't, I got kind of angry. I shouted a bit that it was so selfish of her to have another kid when she can't take care of the ones she's got, and I can't believe that she'd do this to me. I'm now not going to be able to move out for uni because I can't in good faith leave a newborn alone in that situation. I'm also going to have to give up any semblance of a social life I have, and I'm basically back to square one. I raised my voice and ended up crying. She got upset with me, said I spoiled what should be a good thing, and said I was being a selfish a-hole who was making it all about me. I've been ruminating on it, and I don't know. Maybe she's right. Maybe I did kind of overreact. Am I the a-hole for getting upset? Now for the top comments. The burden of raising these kids has been on you, so it seems natural that you would make your pregnancy announcement about you. If you let it happen, then you will be the one raising this kid. On that note, move out for university, develop a life, and report your mom to Children's Services. You may think you can do a good job taking care of all these kids, but you are basically a kid yourself. And you didn't make the irresponsible decision to have kids you don't want to raise. Yes, addiction is hard and she needs help, but she's not getting that if you keep cleaning up her messes. Get professionals involved and maybe it will help your mom get her life together. Worst case scenario, you get your education and develop a life. And then, if you still want to, you'll be in a better position to take on raising 5 kids. Right now, you aren't any better for them than your mom is, because you don't have the education, /finances, /social support needed. Not an a-hole for your reaction, though your mom is certainly making poor choices. You would be an a-hole if you sacrificed your life to something that really doesn't help anyone by giving up your future. This is a hard situation. I hope it works out for the best for you and your siblings. This, OP. Do not put your life on hold to fix your mother's mistakes. All that's going to do is burn you out and make you resentful. Go live your life. I recommend trying to set some boundaries with your mother ahead of time. Tell her, if you feel safe doing so, that she can have her baby but you won't be doing the bulk of the care. And if she demands to know why, tell her the truth. You've taken care of enough of her babies. It's time she stepped up. Good luck, OP. You needed to have called CPS many times before now. And you'll need to call CPS if she goes on another one of her benders again. I guarantee you the kids will be in a better situation than my mom can't afford food and bills because she spent it all on substances and designer BS. You can't put your life on hold to raise another one of her kids. I know you love them and can't help but to feel responsible for it, but ultimately you can't just decide to be their parent. Your mom is just going to end up having another kid in 3 to 5 years anyway. Go to university and call CPS if anything happens. Not the a-hole. I was in foster care when I was the twins' age, and without getting too into it, I had an incredibly traumatic experience. I'm terrified of it happening to any of the kids. I'm sorry you experienced trauma. But what exactly do you think your siblings are experiencing with food insecurity and no stability in the home, being raised by a brother who is frustrated and doesn't have the support to genuinely help them? That is also traumatic. They could have a better outcome in foster care. Many do. Not at AITA. And yes, you can move out and go to university. This is your only chance to escape. Call social services so they put care plans in place for your siblings. 1. You deserve to go to university. 2. If you don't, you will hinder your future chances. And in turn, you may be able to look out for your siblings / encourage them to go to uni as their get-out plans when they're older. 3. You're not a nanny, but you're essentially enabling your mom by giving her what she wants. If it makes you feel better, when I left my parents, my mother actually did to an extent step up and parent the little ones. She could always do it. She just used me because I was there and would step in while she didn't step up. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not going to my mom's birthday after learning her husband got rid of my cat? My mom remarried when I, 29 male, was 14. My sister and brother were 12 and 9. From the beginning, none of us liked Ben and didn't consider him our stepdad. It was obvious he didn't like us either. He literally divided our fridge between stuff that was ours and what was his. Separate milk, cereal, eggs, sodas, etc. Everything he paid for weren't allowed to touch, even if it was the same brand. It was weird, but whatever our mom bought us what we needed. Ben was super controlling too. Always told us our friends weren't allowed in his house. He's the one who moved in with us. Even if my mom said it's okay. We weren't allowed to sit on his couches, so always sat on the living room floor. Expected us to be silent in the house 24/7, never let us go outside, etc. I was a stubborn little guy, so I butted heads with him the most while my mom played mediator between us. Even now that we're all older, we still dislike him. Only tolerate Ben for our mom when we visit. My brother in particular hates him, and sometimes they have screaming matches. Last month, when we met up at their house, things got out of hand with their argument, and my brother revealed he knows Ben was the one who got rid of my cat when he went missing. This caught me off guard, but I got on Ben's case and told him to tell me the truth. And it was true after all. My brother saw Ben with my cat in his car driving off once. Ben confessed he was tired of all the hairs and my cat roaming around everywhere, so he took my cat to a shelter an hour away. I almost freaking lost it right there, and my mom tried to calm me down. So she had known about it too back then, but never told me because my cat had already been gone for months. But according to her, she made sure Ben knew how horrible that was. Then I took off and told them I'm not speaking to them anymore, and she shouldn't expect me at her birthday, which was a few days ago. My heart was pounding and I cried a little in my car. I felt like I lost my cat all over again. I had spent months looking for him, and all that time he was at a shelter. Who knows if he was even adopted because he was an older cat. My brother's the only one who apologized for never telling me and for bringing it up like that. Everyone else is telling me to let it go already because Ben made that mistake years ago. They said my mom was extremely hurt that I didn't show up to her birthday, so this was very mature of me to be angry over something done a long time ago. I spoke to her and she apologized for what happened back then, but it didn't make it right for me to shut them out on an important day. So she also feels I was in the wrong for refusing to go on every birthday I've been there, and it means a lot to have all her kids there celebrating. I'm caught in the middle, still feeling emotionally raw over this whole thing, and not really sure if I was an a-hole for not going. Give me a break. Ben made a mistake? Ben was a selfish a-hole time and time again, and your mom enabled this man to treat her kids horribly for years. You have every right to be furious with both of them. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I sure don't see Ben apologizing anywhere in this story. Not the a-hole at all. I also don't see where the mom attempted to get the cat back. I mean, sure, she let her husband know he did a bad thing, but oops, I guess can't go to the shelter and get it back. I also don't see her ever standing up for her kids beyond being a mediator, which is apparently a normal and okay thing for her to do, and not question why she brought someone into her life that makes that role a necessity. Not a-hole. I'm pretty sure Opie is better off without either of them. I said this in another comment, but I'm amazed any of these kids even speak to her. She was basically an accomplice to this mistreatment for nearly a decade in the case of the younger kids. I'd never speak to my family again if they let someone treat me that way. She was an abuser as well. Neglect is mistreatment, and she clearly neglected her children. Not a-hole. She made it clear she has chosen Ben over her children, so she can celebrate with him. If she wanted her kids to be happy and visit, she should have dumped the weirdo who refused her kids food. Not a-hole. You don't have to speak to either of them ever again, if you don't want to. That's freaking horrible. I get that birthday gatherings mean a lot to you, Mom. But you know what meant a lot to me? My cat. What he did was despicable, and you covered it up. That makes you complicit. I'm absolutely entitled to shut him out of my life forever. Should have done it long ago. And if you're adjacent to him, that's unfortunate. You're gonna have to forgive me if I can't get over what he and you did. Or don't forgive me. I don't care. Won't change anything. You chose that narcissist over your own children for years, so enjoy that. I'm done playing happy family with that monster while my mom acts like his deputy. Click. Nothing less than an apology from him, not her, will suffice. And you still don't have to accept that. But her apologizing for him? No. Next story. Am I the a-hole for screaming at my whole family because they didn't invite me? I, 25 female, had a big argument a few weeks ago when I visited them. Before I start, I should mention that I am autistic, but I have a normal job, a fiancé, and a pretty normal life. That was a bit different as a kid because I had a few more difficulties with loud noises, groups of people, foods and stuff, and some social rules/interactions. But I almost never had major meltdowns in front of others. There were maybe 2 to 3 accidents, but which kid is perfect? So the whole incident started when I was at my parents' house, where my parents, 54 male and 50 female, and 2 of my siblings, 29 female and 21 female, my brother, 19 male, and I both moved out at 18 but visited often. We all sat at dinner, and my brother started talking about how nice it was in Paris a few years ago, and that he misses those trips because of the pandemic. I froze for a moment, because I never had a family trip for the last 20 years, not even stuff like an amusement park or zoo visit, because my parents let me believe I don't have enough money. The most fun I got was when I was for a few weekends, sometimes weeks, with my grandparents in another city. It hit me pretty hard, and I exactly know the reason why I was there always alone. I asked my whole family if my assumption was true, and that they had family vacations without me and still excluding me. After a long pause, my dad said yes, and I could not hold my tears back. I felt so alone, and went into the guest room to cry. After an hour of crying and thinking about all of that, I asked my parents why they did that, and my mom said she couldn't bear my meltdowns and couldn't deal with them at vacations, and was so sorry it found out that way. My dad just sat there, and the only thing he had to add was, "You need to understand that we wanted to feel like a normal family at least at our vacations." At that moment, I screamed at my parents that they should have given me up on adoption if they hated me so much. Until now, I got a message from my mom that says, that's exactly what I meant. You can't control yourself, and that I should stop ignoring her calls. Pretty nasty messages from my sisters I don't want to repeat. The R slur is used, and a big apology from my brother, who told me I missed over 50 big and small vacations, that he is sorry what happens, and that he didn't told me before. So my question is, am I the a-hole for ignoring my family besides my brother? My mom didn't really apologize in my opinion. I just feel still sad and betrayed. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Dear Lord, this is ableist as hell. We wanted to feel like a normal family? Excuse you for being born autistic. Info though, where were you when these vacations happened? 50 trips is a lot. I was at my grandparent almost every second weekend, in a camp for autistics, basically applied behavioral analysis therapy all summer long, and hated it. And after I moved out, they didn't have to worry. I have routines, and will ask 2 weeks before if they have time. The reason we always left you behind was because you'd ruin our good time. I have nothing to say, but I'm sorry. You are completely entitled to how you feel. Your parents and sisters are weaponizing your disability against you. If you weren't already, I would continue to maintain very low contact for the time being. These people are actively denying you your humanity. Labeling you as abnormal? Your disgusting sisters referring to you as the R slur. There is no excuse for that. Not one. Once it's safe to travel, book yourself a trip somewhere. Text a picture of you boarding the plane and say, "You were right, Mom." Catch flights, not feelings. Thank you. That's a great idea. Not the a-hole. Honestly, what kind of parents can do that to their child? I'm gonna suggest start calling your parents by their first name, if you ever talk to them again, because they clearly don't deserve to be called Mom and Dad. That is a great idea because it's what I feel, but I don't think that would be socially acceptable. Not the a-hole. They are horrible parents. What they did was so ableist and cruel to a child. That's exactly what I meant. You can't control yourself. And they want to guilt you for something that they did? Yeah, I don't think so. You deserve a proper apology. And you wouldn't be wrong if you wanted to go no contact with them. Last story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for staying the night at my dad's?" Some backstory. I am a 21-year-old female and I don't like kids. I usually give them the chance to gain my liking, but I haven't changed my mind yet. So, some time ago, my mom and I lost our home due to a natural disaster. We lived in a rented house for about a year or so, but we decided to rebuild our house. Well, about 1 month ago we moved back to our old house. I told my mom that I would get a job so I could help her get the new stuff for our new house and all that stuff. Also, she is a retired preschool teacher, so she loves kids. To help too, she decided to start babysitting. Well, this is where it all goes downhill. Once settled in our new house, she decided to start babysitting here. At first it was all nice, but as the time went on, these kids wouldn't leave me alone. Like really. I would take a shower, they would knock on my door to ask me what I was doing, and they also waited for me to get out. While doing college online, due to COVID, at a proctorized exam, they would knock on my window, start shouting or even enter my room to ask me what I was doing. Also, one of the kids I remember was petting my dog so harshly that she started howling in pain, 10-year-old Cocker Spaniel. So I decided to talk to my mom and told her that when they came by, I would stay in my room so they wouldn't bother me, and I would bother her to tell them not to pet my dog, as it was obvious that she was in pain. Well, yesterday, as always, they came by and I stayed in my room. When all of a sudden my door opens and the kids storm into my room. I tell them, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be with your mother?" They tell me that she's on the phone. Then they start grabbing one of my figurines. I have a collection of crystal figurines. So I rush to them, and all of a sudden some nail polish that I had on my bed falls, breaks, and stains my bed sheets, my dresser, the floor, and it even got on me. In the moment, all I could say was, "Go back to Mom so I can clean this mess." When I clean everything, I tell my mom I'm staying at my dad's, so I can go to the store and get some new bed sheets. About 2 hours later, she texts me and tells me that I'm such an a-hole for not treating the kids well. One is 5 and the other one is 8. And that I am mean to them and that I should like the kids, and that I was disrespectful to her by leaving for the night. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. My mother also did an in-home daycare once upon a time. It's hectic and frustrating if there are no boundaries. You aren't getting paid to watch these kids, so it is not your responsibility to like them or be involved with them in any way. Yes, if anybody's an a-hole, it's your mom for not setting any boundaries with a dear sweet devil spawn. I mean children. Seriously, not an a-hole. My mom is in early childhood education, and when I was around 7 years old, she started doing home daycare. With 3 kids of her own, it was easier/cheaper than working at a daycare outside home and paying to have her kids watched. And our bedrooms were completely off limits to the daycare kids unless we invite them in. Obviously, this was pre-pandemic, by like 2 decades. But if I had homework or a project, or needed to focus or even just wanted to read a book quietly and be left alone, my mom would demand that I be nice or play with the kids. This was her job, but in my home. Not the a-hole. Lock your door. Buy door locks. I use a doorstep wedge when I can't get a lock. Not the a-hole. If your mom can't do the job adequately, she shouldn't be doing it. And she clearly isn't, because these kids aren't being supervised properly.